and I thank you. Okay, I believe it's 8:30, so I try to be as nice as possible and start on time. So let's call the meeting at this time. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Bob Canberra, and unfortunate for you folks, I'm the chairperson for this commission.
I'm Jackie Jones, part of the Traffic Safety Commission.
My name is Officer Chris Davis. I'm pretty new to Canby. Used to work for Hubbard, so I get to kind of see how all this goes today.
Officer AJ Miller, I'm with our Canby Police Traffic Unit. For the next few weeks, I'm training Officer Davis.
Spencer Pollock, Canby Public Works.
Danny Wood, citizen.
Gary Bryant, member of the Traffic Safety Committee.
Rick Brown, citizen.
Craig Carter, citizen.
Excuse me, what was your name, sir?
Rick Brown.
Rick Brown.
And I'm Craig Carpenter, citizen.
Good, Craig.
Yeah.
Deanna Ballpark, Vice Chairperson.
Clint Coleman, Traffic Safety Member.
Jenny Driscoll, traffic safety member with an annoying cough, which is why I'm muting myself and on the phone.
And sir.
And Stan Monte, Clackamas County.
Well, thank you very much for being able to join us this morning. Stan.
Oh, problem.
All righty. Review of the minutes. Everyone has had a chance to review the minutes. Any additions or corrections? Do know that
Yeah, just to add the citizens.
we added the names, add additional names to the list. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes of the November 9th, 2022 meeting.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Gary's moved in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Thank you. All righty. We have Stan, I take it that you're here to talk about the bridge project.
Yes,
I'm gonna apologize. I think Stan is joining us on a special request. So I'm gonna jump ahead and take that issue first instead of the citizen. And you may find it interesting anyway. Stan is here to discuss I believe, Stan, you're here to discuss the Knight Bridge closure.
yes.
Okay, and I noticed Brianne has joined us too. Good morning, Brianne. Brianne is from the Public Works, I think.
Planning Department.
Planning Department. She's trying to join us. Okay. Good morning, Brianne. Brianna. And she hears. Okay. Stan, would you like to give us some information about the Knight Bridge closure?
Yes, good morning. My name is Stan Monte. I work for Clackamas County in the engineering department as a project manager, developing and building projects. And the Knights Bridge is one of mine. Long story short, Knights Bridge needs to be extensive rehab to bring it up to above the weight limits that we have today. As of Friday, we decided to delay one more year, and the biggest reason is we're not too sure we can get permits by the time the in-water work window comes. We've been going through our discussions with ODF&W, with the National Marine Fisheries, and once we submit for a permit here at the end of the month, we're told it may be between 6 to 8 months if everything goes right before we get our permits to work in the water. With that in mind, we're going to delay it another year. I don't know if you folks are familiar with the project. We're anticipating a 4-month full hard closure on the bridge. And we're also at the same time during construction going to close the park next door. So our alternatives to continue forward would be to go to bid without a permit, which is not a real good thing to do. Not only does it drive the price up, but it becomes a risk if something should go wrong in the permitting process. And when we're trying to get permits from 5 different agencies, it's not a good idea. That's the quick summation there. I'm open for questions.
Questions?
So that would mean spring of 2024 would be your target, is that right?
With the in-water work window that we have, we more than likely contractor would show up probably about June. So he could get up, get assembled, because the in-water work window is going to be mid-July to August. It's very short, and he needs to be on the ground and running when that window opens up. Sometimes we can get an extension, but as sensitive as the Malala River is, Fish and Wildlife will not even talk to us until the month before we start, as far as an extension, because water conditions, temperatures are going to change.
Yeah. I find it interesting that they give you such a grief about getting permits, considering if the bridge was to fall, what it would happen to the nature of the river. You know, in compensate, you know, so what is the, any other questions before I start asking mine? What is the current status of the bridge as far as safety to go for another year?
Oh, no issue. We did have it posted here. I can't recall the level we had it down to last year, but we went back and reevaluated, had our consultants go in and actually get a much closer detailed look to the underside and recalculate it. So we were able to remove those restrictions. So as far as it surviving another year, as long as we don't have an earthquake, I don't think that'll be an issue.
All righty, any questions then? At least for our sake, that helps resolve some of our need for planning, because we wouldn't have to start planning or looking at notifying the public for at least a year now. That resolves one issue. And the second is there's not a conflict with the current project on 99, which was going to be a concern.
Yes.
Got a quick question. So Stan, you're saying there's 5 permits. One of them is from Fish and Wildlife for the river. And that one, so do you get all 5 permits lined up with the plan of doing it in June of 24? And then you have to re-review the Fish and Wildlife permit with them right before it starts, or only if the project got pushed out beyond the original date it was approved for?
Except for DEQ, most of the other agencies, we put in what we call a joint application. Starts out going through the National Marine Fisheries, Fish and Wildlife looks at it, everybody looks at it, and it just goes down the queue, and they either ask us for different things or they flat out approve it. We will have approval from Fish and Wildlife. It's just the extension that I'm referring to about a month before.
Mhm.
So now that we have decided that we're going to delay, when the permit goes in, we would be telling them it'll be in the summer of 24.
But all the requests are still going to go in this month, but it's just planning for a longer implementation period.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? We really do appreciate your making time to come to talk to us this morning, because it was very important for the city to have an idea of what, you know, how quickly this project is going to happen, so that we could notify the citizens. And this new information allows us to kind of relax a little bit about our.
And my apologies. Like I said, we didn't make this decision until last week.
But we appreciate it. We appreciate.
May I interrupt with one more question before Stan goes? So with 99 getting a lot of work done and, you know, partial closures and whatnot, I think we can expect we'll see a lot of traffic rerouting to take the Knightsbridge bridge because it's going to be another alternative path.
Yeah.
Is it worth paying attention to what kinds of vehicles end up using it? You're saying you weren't concerned about the weight constrictions any longer. So basically any old semi can just take that and we're not going to be worried because it seems like there's going to be a lot more of them taking that bridge while there's construction.
Let me back up on that one. It is posted, and I'm sorry, I don't have that posting in front of me. It can take all emergency vehicles. It can take semis up to a certain point, but if it's, as long as they can follow the posting that's there,
Mhm.
there's no issue. And we don't plan to change what's there at this time.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just kind of keeping our fingers crossed. People pay attention to the posting and don't
Yes.
create any problems because they're ignoring it. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. Thank you, Stan. I appreciate your time and we hope to hear from you again in about another 6 months or so to give at least a update. How's that? Does that-
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Now, we'll go back to the original part of the agenda. I appreciate your time. Any questions or folks about that discussion point?
Probably nothing that has to be brought up now, getting the cart in front of the horse here, because we know it's still gonna be a nightmare, and no matter what Stan says about the posting of the weight restrictions, they're not in the right place, they're not visible enough. It's a joke. You got a commercial vehicle watching the GPS coming down the road, and he's not looking at the little bitty sign that's behind a tree. It's the worst situation. I mean, his posting is the worst. So I'm defending the trucking industry only because we gotta have the trucks come in here to deliver our goods. And they're coming right down Knight's Bridge, and by the time they look at their map, the road, they've already passed the little sign that says, and what they expect them to stop and back up to borrow the road. It's a nightmare. I'm sorry. It's still a nightmare. So we can jump into that when 6 months from now, see how we're gonna reroute things.
You know, you have a point, and I would appreciate if you because you have experience driving trucks and things like that, which is valuable to this commission. Would you give us some recommendations as to where the sign should be there? I mean, yeah, realistically, from a trucker point of view, where would it, I mean, I imagine the sign should be posted way up on Knight Bridge, Park Road, before the Barlow
Oh,
turnoff.
yes.
And
Oh, yes.
down, way down at the intersection of that Art and on Barlow, be around there, so people will have an alternative to go the different route. So I would appreciate it. Why don't you, are you willing to take that on and come back with
Yeah,
a recommendation? Not that we can impact anybody,
Yeah.
but at least we did our best.
You gotta have more visibility there in this day and age. We're always looking at, visibility, we're open to everything. So, yeah, I'd like to be able to do a little bit more and talk with them and if I can, see somebody with the county, say, let's go down here, put yourself in somebody's, put yourself in their position. When they're coming down this road, they're looking at a map, they're looking at GPS, they have an address. That's why they have the residential areas. They've been through this a half dozen times on Baker Street. I mean, I watch them, I just sympathize with them. They're just gonna be it's gonna be a bigger problem when this bridge is shut down.
Yeah.
Bigger problem.
So are you willing to look at that?
I can see what, and there's other places that have similar signage and they're well marked. But they need to be forewarned, not, here's the bridge, here's a weight restriction, okay, what do you do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you gonna turn around?
Exactly, not in Craig Christian's parking lot, not in the river parking, so.
Okay, look forward to put that on the agenda
All
for next
right,
time.
I elected myself to do something.
Would we potentially have the option to put up some signs of our own? So I know like the official weight limit signs come from ODOT, but since there's going to be construction in the area, would we have the ability to put up temporary signs? I don't know. Personally, I'd love to see one of those little flashy ones that says, hey, something's going on, that says Knight's Bridge weight limit blah, to like remind people in a big blinky lights when they're trying to reroute from other areas. But, could we potentially, are you shaking your head no, Tracy? No. Okay. Okay, it seemed like we might have some flexibility there. All right, that's my thought. Thanks.
Yes, Dan?
If I may, I live on Maker Street, so I have conversations with these truck drivers. I'm not gonna say every day, but I'd say probably every other day. They stop right in front of my house. They've already passed at least 2 signs that say no trucks. And they're looking at the little, I don't know which obstacle things that are on Baker that go around our house. And they're deciding to think, now can I make it around there? And the reason they're doing that is because they're using a regular auto citizen GPS. They have a truck GPS. The truck GPS is going to take them to Cedar and down to Third and whatnot. And so these guys are, they're trying to make that if they can. Now, most of them end up going down 6, hit Cedar, go down to Third, especially if I go out there and talk to them. The thing that I think would be the most beneficial, the signs, you know, like the gentleman says, once they get to that sign, the signage needs to be at the light where they would be directed to Barlow and go to 99. That's where they should go. That's the way the traffic should go for trucks. I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is contact, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 basic businesses that are in that little industrial park. And if they're shipping people, let those truckers know that when you deliver to us, this is the route that you take. I think that would probably be our best way to get those trucks off of Knightsbridge, out of the residential areas, even on down into town where they're wandering around and can't figure out where they need to go. I think those dispatchers are the ones that really need to know that when they dispatch trucks in or out of that area, they need to tell them that they need to go via 99. And I think that's going to be our most direct. I know that's difficult for some of those dispatchers to do because they dispatch through multiple dispatchers to have trucks come in. But I do know that those, it's not Johnson Controls anymore, it's Clarion, whatever. Those trucks are heavy trucks because those trucks are hauling batteries. And they're extremely heavy vehicles. So we need to make sure that those things, I'd like to see them stay off that bridge no matter what upgrades they do to them. That bridge is going to live a lot longer if we keep those trucks off of that bridge. So that's my input.
I think Johnson Control only has, they can only influence the people that are there going out, because freight coming in is handled through brokers and sure trucking companies. And look at it, you know, here's where you're gonna pick up your load, here's where it's gonna deliver. That would be a valuable work. It's just,
That would be
trucks on
difficult.
the road and that only 10 million drivers, so there's 10 million trucks going around.
We have a suggestion on the table from one of our citizens, Dan. Any thoughts about this?
I think we're back to the county, we're back to them being responsible for the signage. It needs to be by Fur Point Farms.
Well, I agree with you. The signage is, you're gonna be looking into that. Now, Dan is talking about us contacting the dispatchers from the various big companies and with a message that says, hey, this is the route system, and please notify your companies that you're contracting.
Well, we got American Steel, we got Caruso Brothers, we got Columbia Distributors. They're handling things just fine. Go there, leave their facility, Columbia Distributors, left turn only. So they don't go down to shortcut to.
So what do you guys think about that? Should we do something?
Something has to be done.
Yeah, we definitely need to do something.
So if I can just add in real quick, being in contact with most of the major trucking places in town like Columbia, we do get a lot of complaints about Columbia, about their drivers not following the truck route. It's not the Columbia drivers. They are very good about handing maps out to all of them. They've talked to all of their distributors. It's just the high turnover of truck drivers right now is a company sends everything out basis, and I know Clarios, we've been in contact with them before on this issue too. It's the random truck driver from who knows where. And so we have gone to these businesses and talked to them about, hey, these are the trucks, routes that you guys need to take. Here's print offs, or here's like a map that you can hand out to everybody, send off to all your distributors or brokers and everything else. And they've done that. And then it's like 3 days later, there's another truck that's still not following. So we have actually tried to go that route and talk to the businesses, just so that's.
Is that something that we should be doing on an annual, at least on an annual basis? You're not gonna
I'm trying to
deal with
remember the
that,
last
you know,
time I was,
right?
it's probably been, it might be a year now. My
Okay.
whole year is all screwed up, but it might have been a year or 6 months now where I've had a conversation with some of the different. We have the 2 industrial areas on which ones, and it kind of goes in waves on when they get, and I don't know if you guys see. You guys are kind of over there too. I don't know if you guys see a whole lot of trucks getting lost certain times or not.
I don't notice particular times, but
Yeah.
I see it occasionally.
Okay, so maybe Spencer, you and I can have further conversations about it. There's obviously material that you guys give out already, so it isn't like having to recreate, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, there's 2 sets of problems. One is you have some random things. It's like anything else in the world. You can plan for 90% of the people, and that would be great. There's gonna be 10% that you can't account for because it's just, you know. But if we can take care of 75% of the problem, that's good work. So let's talk, and then we can bring in some other people like Dan to kind of zero in on the message.
So something else we could consider, if the individual local companies that we're talking to are open to it, they're going to have a set list of trucking companies that they work with, and that list will change over time. But like at any moment in time, they might work with, you know, a handful of different companies. And I don't know who all is super local to the West Coast, because when I dealt with people and shipping, it was on the East Coast. But you know, we could potentially even reach out to the different vendors that they use and say, hey, can you make a note in the account that when you dispatch somebody to Columbia Distributing or wherever, to let them know that we have a bridge that can't handle the weight of their trucks and they need to use 99 or something to that effect. Every single account has notes, every single company has notes. And so if the individual dispatchers are reading those notes or not is definitely a variable. If they bring in a new trucking company, that's a variable, but it might be a way to help the companies that might not have the time or interest in pushing that hard on it to actually reach out to whomever and say, hey, can you make a note in their account? And they probably would I don't think they would necessarily feel like it was secret information who their trucking companies are. And I don't think that the trucking companies themselves would be upset about being called and say, hey, can you make a note in the account for, you know, the next 6 months or so to avoid this? So just a thought.
All right. We'll come back to this issue. Any thoughts? All righty, moving on. We have some citizens here today. So let's address them. Dan, you were here last month and you returned. Oh, by the way, for the citizens that are here, I need to let you know that we have a process in place. Just to be consistent with everybody. Our process is usually the first month that you come or present your concern, we're going to listen to your concern. But we won't necessarily act on it. What it gives us a chance is to collect the information, think about it over the month, actually maybe go visit the site till we understand what's going on. Instead of shooting from our hip, we try to be a little bit more disciplined about solving problems. And then the second month, the next month, we will actually have a full discussion about it, okay? Just so that you're forewarned. Dan, you talked about North Baker and Sixth last month. We were, and one of the things that we always try to do, if there's a way to do it, is we went out and got a digital counter there to actually put, I don't know if you got the, did you get the?
I did.
I'm sorry that it probably is, it's my unprofessional review of the data. The data that Spencer is able to give is monstrous amount, tremendous amount, and I try to synthesize it to make it a little bit more understandable.
He does a very good job. It's actually like close to 100 pages worth of data. And he summarized that into.
It was very informative. Thank you.
So to give you a brief summary, that we are, I don't know if we're going to do on 6 too.
Yes.
Okay, we will continue to gather data and try to look at the traffic on 6th. This just provides us Baker. And to give a reference point, okay, because all data is comparable, to give you a sense. I want to compare the data. We've done this in numerous places around town, and not to minimize the problem, but I'm going to give you a comparison to the traffic load. As you notice on the southbound, this is a southbound lane that's, I take it running toward the buildings, toward the police department and that industrial area, is 1,698 cars. Now, please note that this is over a 14-day period. And the other, on the northbound, it was less. It was 1,117 cars over a 14-day period. As opposed to, I'm giving you, we've done this on South Locust Street, which is a little bit different dynamic because it's kind of a pass-through street that people use. The traffic over a 16-day period on that street was 7,256. Just to give you, I give you that just as a reference point about the type of car flow we're dealing with, and has impact upon all kinds of things to police officer allotment of time, things like that in a big city that we have. So what you can see from this data, let me quickly jump through it just to kind of point out things. People traveling on at up to 25 miles an hour, which is in that area that the speed limit is 25. There was 80% of the people were traveling at the speed, at or below the speed limit, and 96% was traveling at or below the speed limit going northbound. So you can see there's a lot of compliance with the traffic rule. And then within 5 miles of the speed limits, which is not to dismiss that you're breaking the law already by going over the speed limit, but within 5 miles, sometimes you speed up to kind of, get your car going from a stop or something like that. You've got another 16% and another 3%. So total, you've got a high margin of compliance of speed on those two, at least the way I read it. And then, but there is a level of speeding between 6 to 10 miles over the speed limit, which would have been, 30 to 31 to about 40 miles over the speed limit. There was 42 cars doing this 14-day period, which translates to about 3 cars per day. And then very few cars beyond that, as opposed to like North Locust at the time, we had a lot more cars who were speeding. But that just reflects numbers too. So I'm not too sure what that all means for us, but the nature of the problem. One of the things why data is important is I know when I stand on the street by my roadway here in Canby, I always think cars are speeding a lot faster than they actually are, so that the problem is. So I just want to point out something. Any thoughts? Okay. With that basis from, data basis, discussion about the problem. Yes.
One suggestion that I was gonna make, I've been down the street, but I think, having you living there, living with the situation, you know it better than anybody. But one of the things we've done in the past on other sites, and I think it could be useful here, is to maybe schedule a field trip where we actually get a group out there, look at the specific area. Because one of the things that pops out at me is, there's no crosswalks. And so if you were gonna go for a walk with your dog or wherever, you can walk over here, you can walk over here, and where do you typically cross? And when I see the white picket fence, off to the one side, it looks like that would be the natural area that people and pedestrians might go. And I'm wondering if on the field trip, if maybe incorporating like a bike lane type of a situation that defines, where pedestrians should go. It would be nice if it was eligible for crosswalks, but without sidewalks, it's kind of a challenge. So that would be my suggestion, that we have a field trip.
And Dan, can you zero in specifically, what were you hoping to recommend?
You bet. So I'm number one, I want to compliment the city guys for getting out there and putting that camera up. I don't know if it was the next day or the day after, but I looked out my kitchen window and there's a truck out there with the boom and they're putting something up on a pole. So I'm a curious person and I'm retired and I have more time than I know what to do with. So I went out there and talked with them, really nice guys. They got right on it. That was great. And I appreciate that. I also appreciate this data. Like was said, when you live in a neighborhood, that car that's coming right directly at your kitchen window, it looks like it's going really, really faster than 25 miles an hour. But the data shows that it's not. So, I mean, there's some. And I guess that's my point is it's the sum, it's the few. And we have gone through a cycle. We've lived in our home for 37 years. Our kids were young, and when our kids were young, there was a lot of young kids in the neighborhood. But we didn't have as much traffic then, wasn't as big of an issue. Now we have gone through the cycle to where the neighborhood is going from the old folks to the younger folks again, and those younger folks have kids. And so we now are going through a situation where we have a tremendous amount of kids on bicycles and walking, and they are going around the corner. And I don't think that this picture is showing, is that showing the road that's coming from the left? This is the corner right here. That's the problem. So when we come down, those 40-some cars or whatever that are going too fast, they're either turning to the right, I'll use the flag for a reference, they're turning to the right when they get to the flag and going down Baker and into the industrial park, or they're turning left to go down 6th. The problem that is becoming a real safety issue is that left turn going on 6th. Because what happens is they come down Baker, it's a really wide turn, and they cut that corner. And I don't know how many times I have been outside looking through my windows and cars are coming, they're cutting that corner, and then they have to swerve to the right because there's a car coming down 6th Street. And also the corner there, even the cars coming down 6th, if they're coming a little too fast, they hug that corner. If there's a kid coming on that corner, they come very, very close to getting hit. So it's just a bad intersection. There's no stop signs. There's no crosswalks like was brought up. And we've got a pedestrian walkway marked on Baker on the one way. The city guys were kind enough to put that in when they put in the lollipop deals. So in my opinion, if I were to throw something out there, what we need is just something to get the cars away from that large radius turn there. Whether it be the lollipops seem to work great as far as directing traffic. Seems like a fairly low cost
Lollipop.
The
You can't see them in the picture. There's 4 or 5 of them. Right?
Little bubbler
I don't think that this,
It's up.
this is an older picture.
Yeah,
It's the white thing
Yes.
that, okay,
and they're on little springy bob things.
Right,
When
yeah.
trucks.
But that
come
helps
back up.
block the big trucks from attempting that turn.
Well, it doesn't block them, but
Well,
it gives them a real strong suggestion that they probably
You're in
shouldn't
the wrong
turn there.
place.
There's tire marks all over the lollipops that are there. But I think that if we were to put some of those in, I would even go as far as a stop sign possibly on 6 going on to Baker. I don't know how logistically the city guys would have to come up with a way to put a stop sign on Baker turning on, going forward. So I just think
So let me-
some traffic mitigation things
Sorry.
would help a lot.
Just to quickly. So I hear you saying, and you guys correct me wrong, sometimes I've got hearing aids. There's no stop sign on 6th and Baker. So that's a three-way. So there's a T there and there's no stop sign. Or either nobody's decided who's supposed to stop.
So
Okay,
coming off of Baker, it's a one-way, so there wouldn't be anybody coming that way to stop.
yeah, but you got a through street on Baker.
Yes.
And you have 6 T and on to,
Yes.
T and on to Baker.
Are they terrorists?
Oh,
We're in a meeting. If you go right that way, there's a front door, they'll let you in.
Oh, okay, I was picking up the clipboards.
They're,
I don't know.
Oh, they're over there too? All right, thank you, I'm sorry for
Have a
interrupting.
great day, thank you.
So right, there's a T here. And usually usually at a T, I'm not saying anything wrong, but usually at a T, there's either a stop sign or something to say who has to flow through traffic, right? And there's none. Okay. And, okay.
If I may add just one thing, the problem is concerned by, this would normally be just a sweeping left-hand turn in a road. The road that goes to the right where Baker continues, that was really never intended to be a road. That was just a dirt road originally 35 years ago. And it was an access for the city to get down to the water. And in 96, that road washed away, they didn't replace it. So now they go down on 3rd by the police station to get down to the water area. That road is not used anymore. But that road got paved and that access got paved and people use it as a street. So that took away just the left-hand or right-hand sweeping turn and made it, as you call it, a T intersection.
Yeah, but, okay,
Hence why we need the field trip apparently, Bob.
I have a disconnect here. I mean, I see I've driven that street. I went down that street and did a lipsy turn on which you're past your lollipops. But I see, my vision was at 6th, Cedar and Baker. Cedar and Baker is well before the lollipops, right?
Well, before.
I mean, but it's before, right? There's a T there.
There it is, right there.
Yeah, and then it kind of, so we got there's two different issues, right? I mean, this is your lollipop area, right? Right
It's
here.
actually a little further right about in there.
Yeah, but this is where you're saying that there's a turning problem with the
Yes.
visibility to kids,
They
right?
tried
down here and they died on that.
right around
Yeah.
there.
So this is a problem
Yes.
that's different than the lollipop problem.
Well, the lollipop is really, the city guy put that in there.
Yeah,
that
they
solved
solved
the bunch and it worked
Okay.
really, really well.
So this intersection is of concern.
Yes.
One
Um,
other thought you might consider, because it worked on North Birch, was they put in a pork chop at the end, because they were dive bombing that corner too. And so.
Yeah, we got a meal here. All right.
And actually, what is a pork chop?
Sorry.
It's like a little mini island.
it's like what you have over on 13.
Oh, okay.
intersection.
I didn't know. No, I'm never gonna look at that. the same.
Yeah.
So what road was paved, was road are we talking about?
That would be this
Right, that right there.
That right there, that was the access. for that.
Yeah.
That used to be a dirt road. My neighbor across the street complained about the dust, and so the city had, I think they had some extra asphalt and they put asphalt on it. And for many years, that was two-way.
Okay,
Oh.
so I'm trying to move the conversation on because of time. Spencer, what would be the problem in, or we don't have to make a decision this month, but for us to do some thinking, what would be the problem putting a stop sign on Cedar where it joins on to Baker? And then what would be the problem putting, you know how you have at least a white line that, you know, on Cedar that marks that lane? You know, that turn, so it
Try and come up
divides it.
with a
it sort of-
striping plan for that area.
Yeah, it sort of marks that 2 lanes.
An out of bounds area.
Well, you know, it's usually you have you put a center and you put the.
Yeah.
So that they know that they have to make that, well, they don't, they still can dive bomb. But you at least gave them the marking on the roadway that this is where you're supposed to turn into.
I can definitely reach out to our engineer, have him draw something up for a striping plan for that corner. But I think that you kind of already hit it on the head is what they're supposed to do and what they're going to do.
Yes.
Any striping on any corner of town, they disappear very, very fast for people driving over them. But I can definitely get a plan drawn up for that intersection on what we can do there.
I mean, I can't control what people do. I can at least give as much information out there and the most reasonable solution, you know?
I have another question. Where would a school bus stop if you had a school bus in this area?
That's all
You
within
know, we're so close to Echo
Yeah,
and the age of the kids, we don't have that many school buses that come down there. Once in a while, I think there's a disabled or handicapped bus that goes through
Yeah.
there, short bus. But most of those kids are of the age that they go to Echo, they're on bikes and they're walking. And I would just suggest striping and maybe some lollipop, just to get the traffic away from that. And the other thing I'll throw in too is when they do close Knightbridge, the traffic on this street is probably going to increase. I'm just assuming that it will. And this would be a great safety thing to put in place before that bridge closure happens.
Well, if we put in a recommendation, I don't believe we should wait for crisis. But we should deal with problems on a systematic basis so that they're dealt with, so you don't continue to have small little problems. So we'll wait to the data. Any other thoughts?
I might throw out one thing, if it would be of any help, I could I'll go around the neighborhood and get their input, and bring it to you. You know, just saying that we certainly don't want to put in a stop sign and upset a bunch of people.
Right.
But on the other hand too, if everybody knows that's coming down the pike or something, whatever it is, might change. And people want to have their input. I mean,
Sure.
you know, the planning commission is critical that we have people's input. The city council is critical that we have people's input, and we listen to them. So I'll go around and talk to them, and then I'll get in touch with you and let you know.
The only other little thing you should know, people are quick to recommend 4-way stop or it stops right around. And the national criteria for a stop is that it should not be used for
traffic calming.
traffic calming. And it needs to be a legitimate stop. And in addition, there needs to be some semblance of similar traffic flow from both lanes. So in other words, you can't have one lane with a ton of traffic and one or two just occasional traffic to put in a stop right around, because what it does is after a while, people will ignore the stop because there's not enough frequency to support the other side stopping. So we don't want to create a natural hazard by people ignoring stops, and you create accidents because people are ignoring things that just shouldn't have been there first. So I just want to throw that out as you go around the community, because that's one of the first things people recommend. Always stops, and it's gotta fit within that community somehow. All right, so we'll have it on the agenda for next time. Thank you very much. We have some other citizens on here. Are you folks two different issues or the same?
Same issue, same issue.
Okay, who wants to speak first? Rick or Gary?
Well, I'm Craig.
Craig, I'm sorry.
That's all right. My issue, based on everything I've heard here, is so minuscule that I'm
No.
sorry I'm here.
No. We
And I'm-
welcome all
And
citizens.
I'm impressed by the data you guys have accumulated. And so on and so forth. I live in Dinsmore too, which is off of 13th across from the schools and the community center. And we have a cross street there called Larch and Larch Street, South Larch. And Larch has kind of been a freeway towards in between 13th and farther south, 14th, 15th, 16th. And we're concerned about the speeding on Larch. There's no there's an intersection there, 14th and Larch, that has a stop sign headed south on Larch, but there isn't a stop sign headed coming north from say from 14th. And we're hoping to maybe control the speed on that section of Larch. A lot of kids going to school and so on and so forth. It's mainly between the peak hours of, rush hour and, going to school, coming home, so on and so forth. I did not like your data about saying that everybody's within the speed limit when you're standing on the street. That hits close to home, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. But still, when you're on the sidewalk and
I agree.
and you've got these guys coming down, and we do have a lot of young families, grandkids, a lot of old people too. And that was my main concern. I guess it all falls under the umbrella of that. I think we're getting less attentive drivers in neighborhoods. I walk a lot. A lot of times I've had to stop cars, knock on cars' windows who stop in the crosswalk so they can see around these brick barriers that encompass the neighborhoods. And I've actually pounded on windows, said, really? I mean, the law says you stop before a crosswalk and then you go out. But that's my main concern. And again, I appreciate all the data you guys have compiled, but that road in our neighborhood is an issue for us.
Is it your concern, the speeding between 14th place and 13th?
Yeah, I live on 13th place.
I live on Larch.
Rick lives on Larch.
That house right there.
Yeah.
Good guess.
And
know where you're at.
and the biggest, what we find, and I'm sure it's not on just our neighborhood, is the Amazons, the FedExes,
Yes,
and the UPS trucks are just terrible.
it's the same on Southwest 13.
Sure, well, yeah, I mean, it's all over, and that's, I'm not really expecting a whole lot. I just felt the need to be vocal about it.
There's one thing, if I might add, on the corner of Larch and 14th, let's say going south, there's a stop sign right there. Right, that's correct. But on 14th going right on Larch, there is no stop sign. This was put in when they built the development, there's never a stop sign there. So people come from the development farther to the right, and now the new 167 homes are putting in south of us. That's already got roads in it. They feed right into, that's now, I know it's housing development, they feed right into 16th.
Yeah.
So instead of they wanted to go to Fred Meyer's, they wouldn't go out, there's only one road, they wouldn't go out to Ivy, they go right down Larch, turn right, they don't have to mess with the nasty intersection on 13th and Ivy, which you can't get into half a day anyway, because it's either
schools being let out or the senior centers going on there. It's just, and everybody from out, Malala goes that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know why there's no sign there.
So you're saying that there's no sign at,
On 14th, as you're turning right onto Larch. Yes.
is there a stop sign? Is there a stop sign on that side?
Yes.
Right there.
There's a stop sign right here,
Yeah.
but there is not one here.
So
Yeah,
people going down
because-
14th, and they're just moving pretty good, hanging right
Because-
down Larch. They've got to head start going down.
Well,
Larch.
because 14th is considered correct me if I'm wrong, because 14th is considered the pass-through street.
This would be the path.
So that is, there's no need, it's a T, so one side has the pass-through, so it doesn't have a four-way stop. That's why you don't have a stop sign on
Is that,
14th.
is that a thing that keeps it from having a stop sign?
No, I'm just,
I don't know this development. It's been a few years, so I don't remember exactly what the reasoning for all the traffic flow from here on this one was. But this is a very typical intersection of any kind of a subdivision where if it's just a T intersection like that. And what's getting it mostly is that with this being a dead end street right here, that 14, that there's not too many people that are going to the end of the street. It's when this continues on, that's when,
yeah,
that's where more of the traffic would come. So I don't know that we would put because you'd have to turn this into a three-way stop then, and it does not meet any kind of criteria for the national standard for turning that into a three-way
Well,
stop.
I was kind of getting that feeling, but it was, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a large neighborhood
Yep.
concern, and
it is a problem.
it is a problem.
I'm not sure what the answer is, because, I mean, like Spencer points out, I mean, that the flow of traffic is, they're treating Lurch as a continuation of 14th.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's, there's only,
Oh, they're really treating it as an alternative to Ivy. If we go to the right a little bit, I don't know what the name of the street was. Was it Juniper? Lupine. So it's the same thing there, where you basically all of 14th Place, you can just turn wherever you want. There aren't really stop signs except for at Maple. Do you guys know if the neighbors on Lupine are running into the same thing? Does Lupine go all the way back up to 13th?
I believe it does. Hell, I walk, I don't necessarily look at.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Just
I've only
just
been.
curious.
It would be interesting.
I suspect all of those roads, right, are gonna have the same kind of flow as your last one
And-
does.
Yeah, I don't live on those roads, so I mean, I only worry about my little community there, but I mean, it's,
Okay, well,
yeah, I'm sure they do. We also have we have a crosswalk right there, but, you know, crossing 13th. Yeah, to Ackerman, but, it's just, and then people, when they come out, because we have those brick walls there, they blow right through that crosswalk there, so they can see around the corner. And if you've got a foot in a crosswalk, a lot of times you're pounding on somebody's window saying, "What the heck are you doing?" Cranky old man. But, anyway,
so folks, as our policy, we've got an idea of the problem, we appreciate it, and we welcome you to come back next month, okay? Which is the second Tuesday, Wednesday of the month. And
we
please-
appreciate what you're doing.
yeah, and we will,
We're just putting it on the table.
and people can take a look at it and do some brain thinking about
Thank you.
Can we put the traffic thing there?
we could.
But we, and we'll try
I
it,
think,
because we've got it
I've got
on,
another
we got
spot
it
over
on-
on
on
finishing up
Cedar.
on
Oh,
but
6.
maybe, I mean,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
we run it 2 weeks, we
Yep.
can
I can
probably
try
get it.
I was
Yeah, we'll
thinking of
see.
spike strips.
I was just thinking of the thing.
If I might, add, one more thing is, one of the things you can do is if you have speeders in the neighborhood that are repeat offenders.
Sure.
And they happen at typical times, same cars, you try to catalog some of those things and then contact the police about that.
And I get it, yeah. it's-
And the
it's-
police have a trailer, because in the HOA that I'm a part of in South 13, farther down Cedar Ridge, they put a trailer on 13, so they could maybe do that on Larch. I don't know, but how wide it'd be. but that would be-
Yeah, I'd have to go check to see if there's an area for it. Especially if there's a bunch of, how many cars are parked on the street there at any time on this, on
Very few,
Very
yeah.
the, okay. I can go take a look at it.
And you can go onto the website, Canby Police website,
Okay.
and there's a tab that you can actually get that form and fill it out and submit it.
You know, and again, during the middle of the day, nothing really. I mean, it's high volume times that it's an issue, and more in the summer than in the winter time. It's, again, when you live there, I guess it's a bigger issue. So.
I don't know if signage would help as far as putting any small signs up, which is not there.
Okay, well, welcome to, we have a conversation next month.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. I'm gonna jump to staff reports because of the time, and then we'll come back to the priorities if you guys don't mind. That gives everybody a chance to speak. Officer Miller?
So total, let's see.
Got a lot of citations.
So yeah, 310 was the total number of citations that we wrote, and that doesn't count. We did a multi-agency traffic operation in Canby on November 17th. There was multiple agencies. We had, I think, 14 officers and deputies in town enforcing traffic law. So the 310 doesn't count the ones that they wrote because our records department doesn't count their citations. So there's going to be a little bit more than 310 in the city for this month. We had 6 DUI arrests, which is pretty low for this time of year, which is a good thing. We're not seeing as many DUIs. Total traffic crimes, that includes like your driving suspended, misdemeanor, reckless driving, that type of thing. There was 11 of those. There was 12 total crashes, 10 total traffic complaints, and then I have a list that Spencer had a little bit ago of just the amount of citations that we issue. These are just categories that I put up there that I thought were higher numbers. There's a lot of people on their cell phones. There's a lot of people driving uninsured, driving suspended. We issued quite a few speeding citations, so there was 82. And also, like I said, this doesn't count the other agencies that were in Canby in November as well. So
Give you guys credit. That's a lot of hard work.
For
It's-
the uninsured and the suspended, the same.
a lot of people driving suspended are also uninsured.
It's the same number.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like, interesting.
Yeah.
And the cell phone is a significant problem.
Yes, we just, 2 days ago, we had taken a crash and the guy rear-ended somebody in a utility trailer. And when they got on scene, my sergeant, the guy had a video playing on his phone and it was on driver forward.
That and, you know, people looking at GPS is a problem too. I mean, you know, aside from social media.
Can I ask about one particular?
Yeah.
On your crash report, and I think I know where this one happened, it's a Northeast Territorial and Territorial Police. I think that was a head-on, wasn't it?
That was my collision that I responded to. Yeah, it was. Sounded like he was, similar deal. He said that he was looking down at his GPS, wasn't in his hand. He had it mounted on his dashboard, but said he wasn't too familiar with the area, and I think that he assumed the continuation of Territorial Place was territorial. So he went straight into where Territorial Place would be as opposed to going around the corner on Territorial. So as I don't, they were both okay. It was just minor injuries, but could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, thanks.
I have a quick question about the report as well. Actually, two. The one that says no license, is that the, they don't have one at all?
That's
or
just somebody that
suspended?
doesn't have a license
They
at
never-
all.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
interesting.
either they just have an ID card or they've just never had any ID card starter license.
That's a hard number, that's interesting. And we're 11, right, that's what I was thinking. And then the failure to install ignition under locked devices, is that a DUI thing? What is that?
So that can be a DUI thing, or it can be, typically it's people that take diversion for a DUI, they're required to have an ignition under locked device for a year. The DMV can also, yeah, it's either a court order for diversion or it's a requirement for DMV purposes. If they fail a breath test, or if they refuse a breath test or something to that effect, then DMV might require that they have an analog device as well.
And so you're not likely to attempt to do that.
Yeah, it was not just me, this is just,
Well, I
yeah,
you
we did,
personally,
and
but
during,
the
yeah.
agency. Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
So those 5 people got pulled over and you found that they didn't have that, or was there some other path of follow-up that it turned out they didn't?
Yeah, typically they're getting pulled over for other traffic violations, like speeding or on their cell phone, and we get up there and we take their license, go back to our car, and on a DMV return, it'll say whether or not they're required to have it in their vehicle. And so that's kind of, that's typically a secondary one that we find after we've already.
Sure. Thank you.
Those 5 or whatever your 6 DUIs.
It's probably some that were.
If they overlap.
Yeah. so-
Pretty close, right?
Yeah, so.
That was all I had.
Thank you very much, officer. On the back wall, for anybody who wants to look later, and I'm gonna continue this little project of mine. I have plotted all of the accidents that the officer here has been kind enough to present to us. You got a little purple dot. And this goes, I've been able to get 4 months of data, the last 3 plus June, plotted on. And as you can see, there's a gun, shotgun all over. There's no real pattern yet, except for at Ivy, there's starting to develop a pattern. And right there at the fairground on Pine and 99.
The county near misses that whole, that would be a big block. I live there, I can tell you.
So that one actually has, over the 3 months, there's 6 accidents in that Ivy and
13.
Ivy and Territorial. Ivy and 99. So this is a project that I'm gonna continue to, I hopefully in the next 3 months added on here, we got about 6 months of data. You'll maybe see a different pattern, but maybe not. Maybe what it is just, it's all random.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this doesn't count the people that were in a minor crash that didn't call the police, that just exchanged information, and those happen all the time. We don't go to every crash.
Yeah.
so.
So these are actual crashes that the police are involved in. And I thought by a visual, you start to actually see a pattern. And Jackie's gonna look into the possibility of trying to put that on a spreadsheet. And that way you can develop peaks of things like that, maybe a little bit easier. So once again, our attempt to kind of look at problems both globally and specifically to see if we can deal with them before they become, major things. Anyway, thank you. So Officer Miller, that crash report is really being used. Okay, the effort that you put together to do it, we're gonna take it seriously. Thank you. Moving on. Planning.
Good morning, everyone. Specifically project-wise, I don't have too much to report. We're seeing, I'm gonna jinx it by saying this, but we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown over the holidays. And I'm sure things will pick back up in January. So happy to answer any questions, but no specific projects to really bring up at this time.
Any questions? What, real quick question, that development on Territorial, the multi-housing one?
Mhm. Yep.
How many actual apartments are in there?
So they haven't submitted an actual proposal yet. The annexation was approved by city council and they need to do their second reading. So I can't say how many they will propose, but I can look at their they had sort of a preliminary site plan, so let me see what that number is. PDF here. Okay, so that annexation, if it were to consolidate with the parcel to the north, because they are commonly owned, so that's what we're expecting to see. It's 14 units per acre and it's about 3 acres combined. So that's 28, 32, so maybe 30-ish.
Okay, thank you.
And when we do get in the actual application for that, I will bring it up. Right now, everything is just kind of preliminary.
That's a busy place. Any other questions? Do you see any trends that we should be aware of? I don't know. Your perspective that would impact traffic that we should know about in advance.
Nothing I would consider a trend at this point. You know, we definitely have people coming to most of our planning commission hearings to, you know, talk about their concerns in their community, and traffic is one of those. So I do believe we're going to have another work session with DKS, who's our traffic engineering consultant, at planning commission in the new year. So that will be, I don't believe it would be open for comment, but it's definitely open for observation. You can watch it and kind of learn, again, the details that DKS goes through every time they do a traffic study. So that may be of interest, and if I have a date, when I have a date for that, I can let you know that as well.
Thank you.
Is that traffic study going to be looking at all of the streets to determine their current designations as part of the revisit of the overall plan that's going to be happening in the near future?
That'll be happening with the overall TIS update, but that'll kind of be over the next, I would say, 2 years that that's happening. It's not going to be happening with the specific project. It's not project specific.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely in the scope.
I always raise this up every once in a while, so bear with me. Spencer too knows. Is there any plans to look at adding a left turn lane on Territorial to Locust and a left turn lane on Territorial to Ivy?
As of right now, I don't think that we have any kind of plans of trying to restripe or add any additional lanes anywhere on Territorial. We're kind of restricted on right of way at the moment with the houses there. So yeah, right now we really haven't looked into it anymore.
Spencer, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just curious if the city owns any more land on either side of Territorial to be able to widen it in the future, since it's going to be a main thoroughfare if we like it or not.
I don't think that we do have any additional. I'd have to go through and look. I think what we are currently using is kind of what we
Have to work with. Thank you.
I bring those two up because I noticed that we've got tons of houses being built off Territorial. And the flow of that traffic becomes much more serious. And those two streets have a good deal of turning. And when they have a car waiting to turn, it backs up traffic forever, which makes people more anxious and they speed more and they do bad things. Okay, just a bad thought.
Spencer, can you verify, can you remind me, didn't you just put in a 4-way stop at Territorial and Redwood, or is that happening?
It is, that was gonna be on my deal, but yes, weather dependent, the
Okay.
contractor is planning on installing it this week.
Oh, great.
With talking with him and then the engineer, we wanted to try to get the striping down on the street at the same time that we installed the signs themselves. As it is, we could put the signs up right now. I just think that it would be better for everybody if we can get all of the crosswalk and stop bars and everything else down at the same time to help alert all the drivers that there is a change.
Big change.
Because otherwise, if we just throw up stop signs, nobody's gonna know that they're there. So that's kind of what we're waiting on right now is the striping of that intersection before we put the signs up.
Wonderful. That is kind of, it's pretty much adjacent to the territorial monthly family site that we were talking about. It's very close. So I do think that will help the overall situation kind of in that area as it does develop. So thank you, Spencer.
We will look at that, the impact of that four-way stop for future things, but we start off with one and examine what happens there. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Public Works.
So yeah, hopefully this week, weather dependent, if it stays dry and warms up a little bit more to where we can get the striping down, get the four-way stop up. I'm not sure how hopeful I am with that. It's maybe like it's kind of a 50-50 that it's gonna happen.
You look like you're gonna have a lot of 30-degree weather.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna, we'll cross our fingers for it. But other than that, other projects that we have going on are still continuation of the Locust Street sewer and sidewalk improvements. We ran into some issues, conflicts with the gas company, so they had to come out and relocate one of their lines through there, which is kind of slowing down our contractors from finishing up there. Then the gas company out on 99, been working with them. They should be done with everything, fingers crossed, Tuesday next week is kind of what their last timeline was looking at. They've got all the pipe in the ground now. They're just a matter of switching everything over from the old line to the new line. So they should be done and out of there next week. And then KME has been out doing some of the work for ODOT for their new project that's going to be going on continuously from now until October. So 99 is just going to continuously have single lane closures or double lane closures for the foreseeable future.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, at least the baseball goes.
Yes, that is going to be the same experience when we learned that they were putting that off a year. I was a little excited, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I was too. In some ways, cross, yeah.
You did work on the dog park?
I have not, I do not know where the dog park is at right now.
Last tree. And is there any dates where, like, your public works, you guys do a tremendous job, appreciate it very much, where you would welcome help from citizens to help pick up trash in and around town, and could we volunteer to help? Because along 99, ODOT is just not deep enough, and the more that's left out there, people get careless, and they don't feel like you care, they just toss it out there. It wouldn't take that much effort for a group to go out there periodically and just pick it up and just set such a better example.
Currently, we don't have a program like that, but I will.
I'd be happy to volunteer.
Yeah, I will. Let me follow up with you on that to make sure that we don't need any kind of official, because officially, I think we would technically need some sort of right-of-way permit through ODOT. So before I say, yeah, let's go out and do it this Saturday, let me double check to make sure that we don't need anything on that. Just cleaning up like the 99 corridor.
And then.
So if you were doing that, but-
Can be,
along the tracks, that
Along
one,
the tracks. You have to talk to UP about
I
that.
would have to talk to UP about that one. So, and they get very stringent about,
They want their trash right where it is.
yes, but it will be.
Yeah, we-
and thanks so much for, when animals get passed away in the road or whatever, you guys are awesome at picking all that stuff up. So just so appreciate everything you guys do. Please.
Any other questions for Public Works? And we thank you for your hard work, on all the rules that are being approved around town.
And the decorations in Wake Park.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Our Christmas.
Straight.
The compliments I always hear is you get Public Works is very responsive.
We try to.
Thank you. All right. Council.
I don't have much of a report. I guess I'll just answer questions, but I do want to echo the appreciation for the Brooks team. Always seeing their faces.
Any news on the old library project? And then do you know anything more about it?
I don't have any news about the old library, the Oregon City Brewing. Brianna might be the better person to answer that question as to where that's sitting.
The old library, the beer hall.
Your library, yeah. Do we know where that project sits and status?
It looks like DKS is doing the traffic study and that should be in next week. So after they have that, they'll be able to submit a design review application. So it's still in process, kind of in early stages. They're doing the traffic study right now.
You answered that, and the dog park is still, that project's still the same space that it's been, and I can tell you it's not gonna be discussed in this month, but the next agenda is pretty full with city council interview appointment, et cetera. So it'll be next year after the holidays before that discussion picks back up.
Thanks for you guys do.
So
I'm in the traffic safety.
what's happening with the old police department building downtown? You know, they actually were painted it up.
Yeah, again, Brianna.
Sorry, what was that? Someone was knocking. What was the question?
Old police department downtown.
We haven't had any development applications come in for that, but that's not to say new businesses aren't interested in it. All they would need what is a business license. So I think there was some interest from an ice cream establishment. So that might be exciting. But in terms of, physical changes or anything like that, we haven't had anything come in.
Oh, I thought somebody was painting it. And
Oh,
and-
yeah, they might be. They don't need our approval from that, but perhaps the HLC is overseeing that. I know Carol is very involved, so they might be working with the HLC on that.
Okay, thank you.
In the old city hall, any prospects there?
Not other than the ice cream store, no, and I think they're just looking at sort of the old garage space too, so there is still more room in there for new business.
Okay, thank you.
Board member reports or concerns. Yeah,
I just have a concern mainly at like 13th and Ivy, just with the turn lane. I think pretty soon that should probably not be flashing because there's a lot of traffic in the morning and at night with the rush hour. And so just kind of curious if there's talk about changing that light to be where you have kind of like 90-90 where sometimes it's yield, sometimes not. Is that?
Yeah, so switching it from an unprotected to a protected left turn. I know, I don't know exactly how far out that project would be for upgrading the whole traffic signal at that intersection and redoing all of it. It was scheduled to be done, I think, around 2 or 3 years ago. It was kind of on the schedule to be done right around now. But we held off on that for any kind of development that was going to go in on that corner. That development backed out, and so we're reevaluating on when that traffic signal is going to be completely redone. It might end up happening sooner with the South Ivy sidewalk and overlay project, but I don't know for sure when that project will kick off.
I just know that, like, normally I don't go that way, but today I did, just because there was an accident on 99, so I thought, well, I'll just turn beforehand than I normally do, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty busy in the morning, so.
That is a very busy intersection. One of our most busiest, I suspect. Okay. But it is on,
It is on our radar for
it's on a radar,
redoing
just don't know when.
that. I would have to go back and double check, because I don't think it made it onto the CIP. But I know it is something that we want to have done.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a busy area, I know, during the summer with people walking there too, so, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Gary?
You put it made to check on the intersection of First and Elm, where Kennedy Reynolds is. And the only issue there, of course, is they've taken it upon themselves to block the corner and traffic coming in, especially the commercial vehicles trying to get off other streets, but they come through there and they got to jig and jog to get around Kennedy Reynolds
And then the curve,
barricade
and
and
then,
curve.
yeah,
Yeah, and
it's terrible.
I know historically, Kennedy Reynolds probably is a landmark here. We don't want to step on toes or, there's still, it's a situation that has a little bit of traffic problem there. I don't know what else we can do except.
Well, they have the little bollards there.
So,
I mean, and their sign says, please don't block the gate, which I can respect that, but it's like 2 car lengths away from their gate. sign.
Right, and I can understand people pulling up, they want to go straight up to the driveway, down on their excavators and their lawnmowers and stuff, and, I've done it. But coming in from a different direction, I've always influenced, so they're affected by that. But with the tree overhanging like that, and the commercial vehicles trying to get a straight shot at that, and coming off the little sound barrier that we have that's dividing the roadway, it does create a little bit of a hassle. Yeah, right. Right there.
You need pictures.
Yeah, Google needs to update, but
Yeah.
I
But
will
that's
say,
before the sound. That's
Yeah.
That's before
Pilot,
the
yeah.
was on, yeah.
and it is a little tricky with it already being a slightly offset
Mhm.
intersection.
So,
Let me reach out with our economic development team to try and set up a meeting with Cameron Reynolds, see if we can come up with something.
Yeah, I'm sure I know they're a pioneer here.
but presently, I mean, that's a roadway that got put in that way, right?
As far as being an offset.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Cammy Reynolds maybe advocated for it, but somebody put it in. They didn't pour their own concrete to get that in there. It was, I mean, the city must have played a part in putting that offset, right?
it was probably just due to where
Where things were with.
right of way was obtained.
Yes.
I'm looking at an aerial of it and I mean, do they actually own the whole lot there? Because it shows 2 different addresses, but do they own the lot that opens up on that could potentially open up onto Second as well? I mean, is there any way we could collaborate with them on moving the opening of the gate to Second instead of Elm?
They do not own, they are taking over a lease over there, and I did have a brief conversation with Cammy Reynolds about that when I was in there probably a month ago, trying to come up with different ideas. And they were kind of open to having a meeting about it, and that's why I wanted to bring our economic development team in and kind of work with everybody on that one. So yes, there is potential, but at the same time, there may not be. So something I gotta work out with them.
Thanks.
And if you shift it, you may be just shifting the
Right.
problem.
Could
to
just
the
be moving
second.
the problem to a different area.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's see, who am I? Oh, me. I'm causing enough trouble. Let's see, moving on. Clint?
Sure. One of the things that I mentioned the last time was the idea of having this in our toolbox, because obviously speed humps in and around town are expensive. A lot of people don't welcome them with open arms. But another item that can be a safe thing for the toolbox is raised crosswalks, and I'll give you a brief on this. In the right setting, raised crosswalks can reduce pedestrian crashes by 45%. They basically elevate the pedestrian, and they also can calm traffic. They're specifically designed to be on thoroughfares where the speed is not more than 30 miles an hour, and the traffic is probably not more than about 9,000. And so a couple of the streets that we've looked at over the past year that something like this might be a consideration was like on Locust, for example, where there was on the south side, where there was a long stretch, and another one is over kind of near your mom's on Northwest 10th.
Yeah.
And another consideration where they have one, now they've had to shave this down over time, but on 13th and Burke Parkway, that was really pretty harsh. But if they're done right, they're kind of a table, and they have a calming effect. So I'll give you hand those out. Something I think for further discussion, and they are used in shopping centers, retirement areas, and they can work in neighborhoods.
Do they still have that ADA connection where you can kind of get up into them and out of them safely in a wheeled vehicle?
What they do is the height of them matches the height of the curb, so it's just a seamless transition.
And then there's a little bit of a ramp down to cross the street itself.
Yeah, we'll email this out.
I appreciate that. I'm so sorry I'm not there today.
I'll scan it in.
Is there a height restriction on the raised sidewalks or raised crosswalks?
Yeah.
Once on the one on 13th, it's like 20.
Yeah, these are pretty
Yeah.
mild.
And I wasn't going fast either, it was just.
They're very suggestive. That's all I have.
That's an interesting,
Yeah.
it's an interesting solution to some problems.
So is this the one on 13th by the school?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I think they dropped it.
I was gonna say, it seems like it's a little lower now, but it does get your attention.
Yeah, the previous
Attention the
administrator
first
shaved
time.
that one down.
It was hard.
But at first, it was kind of like running over.
I would not use the one on 13th as a model. This is pretty well thought out.
No, I think it's lower down.
It is.
It is, but it's still not a good model.
No, it's it.
It is an interesting concept.
You're right.
Okay, thank you, Clint.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Hi. So I don't have anything earth shattering or new. I gave a little bit more thought to something I brought up a few months back, and that is the intersection of Southwest 4th, basically where it's 4th in all directions, just north of the entrance to Safeway. So just past the Vietnam Memorial, where you can turn off of 99 and go into Safeway. People coming off of 99 heading north would have that little ramp that gives them the option to go onto 4th or turn right into Safeway. And my concern is that the visibility is really limited there. So if you are on 4th and you are headed towards the Safeway, so you have the memorial on your right, when there are vehicles in the 2 turn lanes that can turn onto 99, they back up and you cannot see that one lane of people turning off of 99 and hanging a hard right. So people who are coming off of 99, they didn't take the easy, gentle split, but went up, half a block's worth of space, and then they're taking a hard right. So what I would love people's thoughts, just go check it out yourself, think about it. The only thing that I can come up with that might make that better would be to make it so that in that intersection, everything stays the way that it is, with the exception of the roads that go on to 99. That maybe all 3 should be, you can go on to 99 and whatever left or right configuration makes the most sense to people, but that you cannot turn off of 99 and into Safeway right there. because you've got lots of other ways you could do it. You can go up to the intersection. If you're coming north on 99, you can take that gentle split and get in there. If you're in town, you can take 4th and take a left in, or you can take a right and swing back around if you decide you need to go to 99. But the thing that seemed to be the biggest vision issue, where people are waiting to turn on Southwest 4th, facing towards the intersection of Berg Parkway and whatnot, is that you don't see the people taking that hard right off of 99 necessarily when all the cars are backed up waiting to turn on to 99. You'll have 2 lanes of traffic trying to turn on to 99, be it left or right. They back up and then 4th backs up and people want to go, but they can only see the people in the Safeway parking lot, the people on the gentle split, and the people who are waiting to turn on 99 onto 99, but you can't see people coming off of 99. So that's what I wanted to throw out there for consideration. You guys might think about, if you hate it, if you love it, or if you share the same concerns, but that's the best I came up with.
Well, I can see where she's coming from there. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that we would be able to do without ODOT's blessing. It would all have to go through ODOT because it's 99.
Can you close off that one street by Riverville?
We can't do anything that affects 99 without ODOT being involved. Am I right, Spencer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, still look at it and think what you think, because if everybody's like, you know what, maybe it's worth bringing it to them, it might be worth bringing it to them. Obviously it's not going to be a flip of a switch thing if it's not fully within our jurisdiction, but especially as the traffic on 99 grows, I think we're just going to see more and more people who are both unfamiliar with the area and also impatient taking that hard right off of 99 when they're heading north. And then you're going to see people impatient on all sides. And I think we're going to see more issues right there. And that would be something that we could do, over time, not tomorrow, but over time, if we were interested to avoid issues. Because if that does get all backed up right there, that's a really messy area to have accidents clogging up the works for everybody too.
So Bob, if you wanted to put that on a future agenda, if this group came up with what seemed like a good solution, it would be a letter to ODOT with that proposal
Well, let's
through Scott, of course.
let's put it on, Jennifer, you bring it up next month.
Sure. And if you guys think of it, just, when you go through that area, just think about how you feel about it.
And I will say too, that we gotta remember that ODOT is coming through this summer and redoing all of the signage, sidewalk striping, everything from Berg Parkway to the Logging Road walking bridge. So it might get addressed because I haven't seen the full set of plans for that whole project. So, yeah.
So would you have a recommendation of, if we did choose to write a letter and make that request, what the timeline should be to get it in front of them before they make final plans for the summer project?
They have final plans because it's currently under construction and out under a contract.
Mhm.
So anything changing to that would be changing of those plans. I just haven't seen those plans on what they're going to be doing for sure.
Okay.
So at this point, I think the best thing would really be to wait and see what, I can try and get a hold of the plans to look at them to see if they are doing any changes through there. But to see what they're building, how they build it, if that fixes the problem, and then come back and try and get them to put a no turn right there.
Okay. So you think they might have, of their own volition, considered changing that?
There's so much that they're changing that.
We just really don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did we have an issue about kids crossing through the parking lot there, going to A&W and?
That's different side.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's the same.
So we had, I let my SRO know, our school resource officer, and we actually both stood out there. I stood out there with her for 2 days for a couple weeks. I know she's probably been out there more than I have, but she's directing kids to the crosswalk. And so I don't know if kids are following it when we're not out there.
Bless your heart. Thank you. We have been dealing with that problem for years. And bless your heart for, thank you very much for.
A lot of stubborn kids, but getting to the crosswalk.
Okay. Jackie?
All right, not much, just, I guess on the way here, I've been realizing on Territorial, I don't go to the north side very often. And I was like, Territorial, is that 25 or is it 30?
30.
Well, yes, but Southwest 13th is 25. So, and I'm like, I think can we do extra speed signs? It seems like,
Trying to remember how many signs we had.
it doesn't seem like there was some.
Right by 99, as you drop down, there's
I was
the
kind of-
flashing speed limit sign.
Yeah.
Of course, you pick up momentum, I know I go
I was
from
coming from
35
here.
to level out.
And we
I was
have,
coming from Holly, Territorial.
Yeah, we do have, I think it's right there in between Ivy and Locust. Or Ivy and Juniper, somewhere in there is where one of the speed feedback signs are.
Yeah, tell me how fast I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and then from that direction, I'd have to do a count on how many signs we have. I know from 99 heading west on
There's more
Territorial,
that way.
there is a lot more. I remember when we had
Yeah,
to put all
But
those
going
up.
the other
I-
way, I think they're lacking.
Okay, I will take a look at that.
I could be wrong. And then I had a question about the flashing school sign on Ivy. Is that flashing from 75 or just?
So the
because it
school
used to be-
district actually gave us a set time where they wanted flashing. I think that one goes on, one on Ivy goes till 3 or
Okay, because
3:30.
we've had this conversation in the past where it's scheduled from 7 to 5 to be like every other school year.
It used to be 7 to 5, but the school district had sent us an email with what times they wanted it flashing. And so we're just doing what they said, set times that they put on there for
Or it's
us.
just in the past, because there was a consistency issue.
So the ones that aren't flashing are either when children are present
Yeah.
or 7 to 5.
But yeah, we've
Typically,
been talking
they're
in the
7.
past, that that was the only one that can't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the rest of them.
Right.
So I just wanted to find out why it changed. And then I just have to say, this is hilarious, that last night, we were talking about the ice cream place. My husband randomly said, there's no ice cream shop in this town. And I'm like, that's okay, are you wanting to like start a business? I mean, that was kind of. And then here we are talking about that might be. I just had to add that.
Tell me, Christine.
I'll just throw in the little Hispanic restaurant that sits right at in the Safe Point parking lot. That's right next to Canby Insurance and Investments.
Camilla's?
They serve ice cream and it's really, really good.
Oh, good to know.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
I'm just saying, but I'll put a plug in for this, yes, and they're really nice people. too.
Bless your heart.
Okay, and Eric's.
Okay, just returning to our discussion about old business, since we still have about 5-10 minutes. CIP, remember folks, ongoing have an issue about if you have CIP issues that you think should be addressed. Jerry would love to hear it. We have please refer to the city's website, which lists under their budget. It has the present CIP. And I think a lot of us feel very strongly that the CIP listed projects are really good projects that are there that we support. If there are others that you think should be on there, please let's bring it up for discussion. That's why it remains an old business, because that's an important long-term kind of issues, you know, we look at those. Some of the things that are really serious are the 10th Street, North 10th Street. It is kind of a very busy portion of town, especially from Pine to Locust, that surrounds our county area. And a lot of people walk that area, and that roadway between that particular places is not only in need of repair, but also there's no sidewalks along it. And it's there listed on the CIP. There's a few others like Maple Street at the end on going down toward the river past Territorial down. That there's a lot of traffic, busy development there that needs sidewalks or something. But any other projects, those are important to bring up. Red flag system, we've talked about it before. I have been sharing emails with the police chief, and we are hoping to have some meeting in the future to discuss that. So we'll keep you appraised as we move forward. Any questions?
With old business now?
We're finished with full business, but if you've got a full.
No, when I first got on the board, it was a big effort to, where Jenny lives, on that street with fire department and stuff. I didn't know if we were going any further with that. The 3-story truck needs to come through that area.
Yes. What we have done is, I will, and I'm checking with, looking at Spencer, we have painted the red no parking areas,
Okay,
all of those through. Regarding restricting parking on one side of those roadways, planning department has asked us to wait until they do the traffic safety update to relook at roadway spaces. And so we've suspended that issue.
okay.
It is still there. And I'm just hoping to continue to push to have that, the implementation of the traffic safety review, not traffic safety, the traffic transportation,
Traffic system plan.
just occur sooner than later.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a timetable yet. They were still looking for funds, right?
Didn't we already approved that? I thought so. It's
Yes.
almost totally cool.
It has been approved.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, he's gotta go out. Hi.
Can I put in, Tracy?
Yes.
Sure, I forgot you were here.
And Brianna can probably talk to this too. The funding was approved by city council, and they're moving forward with a consultant for the transportation system plan and other projects. And so that is going to be coming soon, as soon as we get our results back from the consultants. Is that right, Brianna?
Yeah, just got tired of consultants, all that.
And I don't know what the time, I don't know how long that will take. I would imagine it's going to be fairly extensive.
It's a big project, yeah.
It's huge.
So I'm, Don Harding has informed me that we will play a part in that as far as community involvement and discussion of issues and things like that. So be aware that we'll be calling on you
It's
for
quite
your
the
input
process.
of this commission in that process.
I have a hunch, second and third will be a hearty discussion in that process.
Yes, there's a lot of party issues to look at. Any other topics for discussion this month? Okay, our next meeting will be the second Wednesday in January. So we appreciate your involvement. Thank you for your service.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Um,